podcast for the OWASP Top 10 for Large Language Model Applications. If you'd like to stay up to date with our project, please click subscribe. And if you enjoy the content or have any questions, please feel free to comment and share. Now, on to our meeting.
Welcome everyone to OWASP. Okay.
I'll shut up now.
Welcome all our newcomers. I guess the first slides are yours, Scott. If you want to jump into those.
Yeah, so we can go to the next slide. So I think we don't have any. I don't have any other updates other than just kind of hopping into the lead reports. I think is probably for today. The slide I had before was looking at our roadmap, but I think we've talked about that on the last call. So I think today we can hop onto the lead reports. I think that would be great. Unfortunately,
Krishna had a conflict, so he wasn't able to be with us today. Huge accomplishment this was one of the first projects that we actually used people other than the people that were part of the project to help with the editing and revising of it. I haven't had a chance to look at this final version, but speaking with Scott yesterday, we were able to really do a professional job of publishing and editing it. But I want to say thank you to everyone. I tend to float around to different projects and pop in where I can, support where I can. And this, Jason, you probably, you were one of the very active contributors in this. There was a lot of people, a lot of great contact. It was definitely many people working on this, providing their expertise. So I'll just turn it over to Jason, and maybe you want to talk a little bit more about this project.
Sure, I can do that. I don't know that I have a whole lot to add, really. There was a lot of people involved. Some really core contributors that don't make these calls very often. So Heather Lynn comes to mind as a person that contributed heavily to the content of this doc as well. And then we did it in 1 quarter. So the first call was September, and then a quarter later we had the draft in, had the editors do the technical wizardry and wordsmithing, and got it released. So huge thanks to everybody that contributed to this. I know there's a lot of input from a lot of different folks.
Yeah, and I did the count. It was almost just in the people who are referenced in contributing, we had over 30 people contributing. And as I look at everybody who's participating on the red teaming initiative, we almost have a little over 200 people on the Slack. So it's amazing the work that the team has been doing is kind of pulling all this together. We've also been fortunate now to, thanks to our sponsors and having some funding, being able to bring on editors and layout folks to kind of help us finish this. So this is one of, as Sandy mentioned, this was one of the first ones we had our editor go through and make sure that we're making things easier for our SMEs. So the whole objective of having editors and those types of resources available is so that we can focus on content, and we can have folks making sure that we are being able to express it the most effective way possible, so we don't have to spend years in editing hell, which I know can happen on these documents. So we can focus on the content, keeping it concise, keeping it practical, keeping it actionable for folks, and go from there. So yeah, excellent job on this. We've had great take up too on the social media promotion. We did a promotion on this to get that outreach through LinkedIn. Yeah, it's really picked up. And then there'll be opportunities, I think, to, I don't know, Krishna is not on the call, but we are talking about follow-on follow-on webinars, etc., to dive deeper into the project. I also know that the team is getting ready to kind of kick off the next deliverable on our roadmap for the initiative, which is great. So kudos to the team getting this done and out.
Yeah, if you would like to be part of this, I don't have the channel memorized, but I have it in the LinkedIn post. Those are the most popular channels that people use. So if you're interested in being part of that, jump into the channel, start being a reviewer, start looking at different ways that you can contribute.
A good place to go if you're looking to get involved is to go to our website, the genaa.owasp.org, and go to the roadmaps section. The roadmaps has not just the roadmap of the deliverables for each of the initiatives, but as you scroll down, you'll find each of the channels for each of those initiatives and who to reach out to on that. Also, if you go to genai.owasp.org/initiatives, each of the initiatives has a call out for both leads, and so you can see who's leading the project and how to get engaged. First thing to do, I often get asked on these is, how do I get engaged? And the first thing is to get a OWASP Slack account. And there's a link on the on both the roadmap pages and on the initiative pages to create that if you don't already have one. Cool. So next thing we have up, we put out the announcement to hold the date. So we will be back this year at RSA. We'll be having a half-day summit. Over the next few weeks, we'll be finalizing the agenda. It's great that they were able to get this for us, working with the foundation, and I'm looking forward to it. We have a larger room this time, which is good. Last year we had, I think we held about 150, 20 to 50 people, but we were standing room only. So we've got a little bit bigger room this time, so hopefully it'll give a little bit more space, but do come early because I think, hopefully we'll have now more time to promote the event, and you'll see more about this as we kind of go forward. So for the core team members, I know we've talked a lot about different types of content. It'll follow kind of similar to what we did last year, since we only have a few hours to cover a lot of content from this last year. So but we'll work to kind of get that up and running in the next couple of days. But I want to make sure folks are aware of this, that we put the date out and it is happening. We will have discount codes. It is open to all attendees. So regardless of pass type, you can get into the summit. And I'm just waiting for the RSA team to send me the discount code so that we can get them distributed to the teams and to the community members. Any questions? Okay.
Did it update to the library page or?
Yeah, that's the one. So we're, I can't recall if I mentioned this on a previous call. I know I've shared this in the core team channel. We've been finding a way to kind of consolidate a lot of the videos that are being created. Being able to consolidate everything on YouTube can be challenging. So we have created a learning page. The idea is this learning library will give us the ability to cross-link videos that have been published by the community, any of the events content that we, as either the project members, participate in, webinars that we host, our project training. So it gives one-stop shop for folks to get all types of content. It doesn't matter where the video is hosted. All you need to do is, all the team will need to do is provide a submission to the link of the content, and then we'll review that content to make sure it fits. It's searchable by the different categories we have right now, by the personas, and by an advanced, advanced, intermediate, and kind of introductory kind of levels. So we can have a variety of different ways to categorize and search through the information. It also includes, when you click on the View More link, you also get access to the larger page, where you can have links to supporting materials, including slides, documents, etc. So, for example, when we do when we get this updated with the content from last year's summit, we'll also provide links to the assets and resources within it. So this has not been linked to the main page or been formally launched. I wanted to share it here because I know I reached out on the core team for content contribution. So I wanted to bring this up here so we can start to bring that. If anybody has any content contributions they want to add to it, if they've been speaking someplace, talking about the top 10, want to highlight that as a community effort. So I want to include not just things that are are related to specifically that we're generating as a project, but also things that are being generated through our participation in the community. So this is an opportunity to participate there. Next, we have, I wanted to just highlight some of the new sponsors we have coming up in Q1. These are the ones that have committed to us for Q1. We've got 4 more here so far. We're obviously coming close to the end of the quarter. We have a couple more that are in process right now. So really appreciate all of the sponsors and their contribution, their financial contribution to the project to kind of help us continue to fund the activities that we want to continue to do. So thank you for that. We do have an interesting question. I see Arnish raised your hand. Let me go ahead and take your question first, Arnish.
Yeah, I just had a question. There is one particular company which actually approached me, and I'm trying to see how they can actually come in. What is the typical check size that qualifies a particular? I know we covered this one, but I'm just trying to have another conversation. I'll link them to you directly on this one. But would be
or you can also show them so that the costs are in the slide deck that's on the sponsorship page, and it has the breakdown of the levels there. If you haven't found that, you can share that with them.
Okay. Let me actually ping you offline because I think I forgot, but I'll ping you offline on this
No,
right after
I
this
think
call.
that's one of the things that as we bring a new web team on board, I'm hoping to have them do a little, that's one of the pages that was first created, I think, last year, and probably needs a bit of an updating to be a little bit more user-friendly than it is right now. But there is a link there for 2 things. One, the slide deck, which gives an overview of the sponsorship program. And second, a link to commit to sponsorship, which is the form they need to fill out if they decide to sponsor to kick off the process. And on both of those, it has the different levels for gold and for silver, including the discount we have specifically for startups under 30 million in venture capital. One thing that came interesting is we got approached by, I got a sponsorship request by ByteDance. So, in a real sponsorship request, not one that is we get some interesting fake ones kind of coming through from time to time that we kind of weed out. But this one was a real one. So it's an interesting sponsorship ask, and I think I wanted to take a pause and try to get folks' feedback and thoughts on having someone like ByteDance sponsor the project, both positives and negatives. So
I'm all for it, personally.
All for it.
Like, yeah, they're doing cool stuff with AI. They're a legit company. I think there's a whole lot of Western fear of China that colors these conversations, and in my opinion, it's really easy to put the shoe on the other foot for non-Western societies, right? So I think many of the concerns that are voiced about ByteDance and their policies could just as easily be levied against any American company as well. So they're a legit company. They're doing cool stuff in AI. I see no reason to deny their sponsorship personally.
Great. Yeah, my main concern is if it would was brought up to me, the question was if it would impact others' willingness to kind of sponsor. And that I agree with you, but that's the only concern that's been brought up to think through.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid concern.
But it doesn't give them any control. So I think
nothing gives them it. We don't have nothing. We're a evenly balanced open source community. So that doesn't give anybody, sponsorship does not translate into governance control.
Yeah, I think having them at the table is valuable. And just like Jason said, if you look at some of the chat about DeepSeek right now, say, oh, and so they stole data from OpenAI. So what's different? OpenAI is stealing data from everyone else, right? I mean, it's, this, and let's not get political about it. If someone is a legitimate company operating in the US and they have money and they pay the things that seem reasonable.
Yeah.
I think where I fall in that concern about would other organizations maybe be hesitant to sponsor. I think it's a valid concern, and I think where I personally fall on that is I don't care. Like if that's the case, then maybe we don't want to court those types of sponsors. It gets a little gray with things like, can governmental agencies sponsor
Yeah, and I'm
if
not,
ByteDance is sponsored, and that's maybe a different category of concern that we need to think about. But
okay. Yeah, so they've put in their sponsorship. Like you said, I'm all for, you know, a lot of people are doing innovation globally. I just want to make sure that this was brought up to me, that we don't necessarily alienate other folks from sponsoring. And if that's not the case, then we can go ahead and kind of go forward with
OWASP
that.
is global. It's a global open source project.
Yeah.
All in, says I.
Yep. And I was wondering also, you know, we have a lot of contributions from Meta and others, whether they would be, with maybe this might entice them to also financially contribute as well. Or negatively, you know, one way or the other.
I know TikTok sponsors sports teams, so
Okay.
they're not apprehensive about it, but yeah, I'm not sure how the any future governmental rulings would affect it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to take a temperature here and then just see how people respond, because I know it's been a political football out there. So I appreciate the responses. Anybody have any, and it's okay if you have strong concerns about allowing them in as a sponsor? You will not be viewed negatively, just trying to get a balanced view.
I mean, if you get right into it, you know, just think about Madison Square Garden not allowing some attendees to attend games because they were attorneys for companies that had sued MSG. That's a different sort of relationship. All I see here is they're just giving us money, and we put their name up to say they gave us money.
Yep.
I think the more people at the table, the better. Let's have them at a conversation. Let's invite them to a panel where we can ask them. I know some of the people who are privacy people at TikTok, right? They
Yep.
speak at IAPP events, right?
Yep.
Let's get them out there speaking and telling their story. I think that'd be good.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Making it easy. All right. Next slide. I think that's all for me.
Good update.
This should be John, I would think.
John or Rob?
I think John is traveling. John, you want to give it a shot first? He said he's going to try.
Okay.
Okay, Ron, it's on you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right. It's on you.
Looks like it's on me. Okay, John, I'll take care of it. So yeah. So finally, we were able to go over and complete at least 4 threat modeling workshops. So it was actually an amazing team effort. So we have to go over the weekends, late night, so just we can consolidate and simplify all the existing content. Started the first version, the first iteration is a little bit complex and elaborate, which is we started working as a team to be able to simplify and consolidate most of the content, right? Of the specifically, we're trying to zoom in and focus on agentic threats, right? A lot of inputs that came in, they were a bit focused on the underlying foundational model or LLM or AI system in general. But John and I decided to corral the team and remind them that we should focus specifically and zoom in on agent application threats, agentic applications, right? So the first draft is finally ready for review, and everyone can access it. Current members of ASI and this group, OWASP Top 10 for LLM in general, please go over the document and you can leave your comments either inline or reach out to us, members of the ASI, or reach out to me or John. And we also have a new Google form that we have out there. If you see, if you're not seeing some agentic threats or vulnerabilities that you feel should be included in the first draft, please use the Google form and suggest those potential threats or vulnerabilities. And John is working with collaborators from IBM, and IBM committed in collaborating with us for an example threat model for agentic applications using autonomous car navigation. And I think John is working with IBM folks for that one. And John already started reaching out to our distinguished experts review board, folks from the Alan Turing Institute, Linux Foundation, MITRE, OWASP, and Resilient Cyber, and even Cisco / Robust Intelligence. There's an existing email thread. John and I are trying to work on scheduling our first call with our distinguished experts review board, so they can start reviewing our current draft and provide commentary on it. And we're expecting to publish February 14. I think that's the goal.
That's a good date.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's by design. John wanted to be on February 14. And at the same time, a lot of things are happening in parallel. I think I'd like to take the folks responsible for driving the insecure code sample that I initiated, and a lot of people are really interested in providing working code samples for agent applications that can introduce vulnerabilities in code. I think it's amazing. I appreciate everyone in the ASI group for this. And there's also another a lineup work, which is the Agentic Security Landscape that's currently in progress. So a lot of good stuff to look forward to, and I appreciate everyone's contribution and support, specifically on the LLM core and the leadership team. That's it.
Thanks, Ron. Next slide.
Okay, this is me.
There you go, Sandy.
Yes. So background on this project, several months ago, I came to the OWASP meeting, and I discussed how when I was reviewing comments and feedback in a lot of our publications, especially the LLM security and governance checklist, a lot of the feedback was really people kind of picking apart definitions or how things were being described. And so I also noticed that a substantial amount of each of our guides is really taken over by we're explaining what is AI, what is agentic, what is, and so what I proposed was updating and establishing an active process to update definitions on our wiki page, which is then linked to our site. The benefit is more rigor on definitions, consistency across projects, less rework, and we could condense our documents. We could reduce how big our documents are, and I have a screenshot there of the NIST glossary. This is NIST. I've used this multiple times to, as I rewrite documentation as a source of reference, because it gives you that, okay, this is what this is, now I can use it in a sentence. Quick question. Should we call it definitions or glossary?
Glossary.
Glossary? Okay.
Yeah, glossary.
Everyone likes glossary? Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Glossary
really
is
care either way.
it's kind of universally understood.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Great.
Sorry, Jason. What did you say? I talked over the top of you.
No, not at all. I just said I don't care either way. We already have a page on the wiki for this that's
Oh, yeah.
languishing. So I think we have
That's what I'm updating.
probably the
Jason.
start there. Yeah, perfect. So we can just
Yeah,
use
we
that.
have an updated version of that wiki that's on the GenAI OWASP page as well. So there's actually a glossary there we're using as well. So what we'll come to a point of unifying it. We also have to go through and there's also going to be some work we need to do and refreshing sort of the wiki page. The wiki has gotten kind of aged out. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be updated on it. To your point, Jason, some stuff is old, and so we're going to hopefully consolidate some of that. So we got some help around that. We need to work out some different work items to kind of help clean that up if people are
Okay,
Yeah.
so
on
Scott, from
that.
our previous discussions, I thought you said that the web page was pulling the definitions, like the single source of truth was the wiki.
That's not how we have it right now. We just can decide on what we want for that single source of truth.
Okay. Oh, go ahead and move on to the next page because I can talk about this. So as Jason said, I was going to update what we had. I did think that it was a single source of truth. I don't think it'll be too difficult to diff it, but I thought, how hard can this be? I will dump it in. I'm pretty good at writing some great prompts. I will go up. Oh my gosh, it was way harder than I anticipated. For example, the NIST glossary has almost zero standard language on it. I went through so much documentation trying to find, and what I was really looking for was, hey, what's the standard? Like, how do we all agree on what to call this? Now, there's a lot of vendors who have actually pretty decent glossary pages, but I wanted to be vendor neutral, and they didn't source where they found the definition. So I used the wiki definitions. What I did was I created a document. I have the definition as it exists today. I'm in blue, I put the definition I'm suggesting because it has a source. I used a standard if possible. And I listed here all of the ones that I use, which is, and there was no, again, we're worldwide, but I only speak English. So I was kind of forced to, English speaking countries. And if anyone has any suggestions on an official standard that is non-English speaking that I could translate, I'm completely open to it. But I looked for a standard, if not a standard, official source. So highlighted in red, that's the Cornell University law standard, and they pull from US code. And if I couldn't find an official source, I went to Wikipedia. So I'm proposing 3 streams, update the current. I thought I had the most current version. I'll go back and look at the wiki page and see what I need to update. My proposal is I will come out with a forum where people can vote and provide feedback on it. And there will be 2 processes. It'll go out for comment to the general public. Then any suggested changes will be updated and then put into our core group for final voting and agreement. There will be 3 designations for definitions. You can see on stream 2, what I'm proposing is, submit a definition to the channel at any time. It will be designated as a draft definition with a submitter name. And please include a source if you have one. Quarterly, we'll go through all definitions. We'll go through this process of open review, a review by the core team. Now, there are cases, like especially around agentic, where there isn't a general consensus around a word for, what is a plugin or what is agentic. And so I'm suggesting that until there's a better idea of what it should be, we keep that listed as draft until we have a firmer definition. Then we go through our approval process. So on our definitions page, they'll see 3 types of definitions. One is draft, one is approved, and one is a standard. And then again, this was really was much more difficult than I anticipated. So I don't believe that we'll get everything up to speed all at once. We'll just be iterative. So new guides or revised guides are examined for words to add to definitions or the glossary that we're going to call it. Include a link to the definition in glossary. Now, I do want to point out, I think that there are times when, even though there's a link back to a glossary, it's helpful to include more color and context around a word within a publication. So please let me know if you have any questions or suggestions on a better way on this.
One thing, Sandy, I think that where there aren't definitions, I think it's okay for us to create definitions, and so I don't know if we call it draft or what, because
I would say how I was thinking, and again, this is proposal open to any suggestions.
I'm just chatting through it.
My suggestion on that, Scott, would be approved. And what approved means is that we've opened it up for comments, we've gotten feedback from the general public, and it's been through the OWASP top 10 core team, and everyone is in alignment and says, yep, that's how we want to be able to reference it.
Okay. I just want to make sure, I think there will be spaces where we may be breaking new ground. And I think we'll see that the work that the project has done is being recognized by a lot of different organizations as kind of creating standards in many ways. So I think it's okay in those new areas for us to lead in some of those definitions, as opposed to wait for others to come up with them. But we obviously do not want to just create definitions that already exist. As you said, we want to make sure we're leveraging things that are that exist, right? Because that's the whole goal of the project, is to add value as opposed to repeat value.
Yeah, and we aren't necessarily a standards body, so yeah, but again, this was just crazy ideas, so open to any suggestions or any people who have better ideas or ways to eat this elephant.
So I think I agree with both of you. We're not a standards body, but we are a grassroots leader, and a lot of organizations, both formal and corporate and informal, kind of look to us and treat us as if we were a standards body in a lot of ways. So I think I think the process you're outlining is perfect. Like, it leaves room for both, right? We get the standard where there is one. We come up with a standard where there's not one. We get community feedback, and then we just decide this is what how we're gonna define it. And I think that's where we can lead the ground. This right now is one of the things that I see really missing in this space. Everybody calls
Awesome.
everything different things, and nobody has a standard language. So I think we can really step up here.
And I think that, one of the things that's happened in the industry in general is that, there's open source, we're an open source community, and open source and standards kind of work hand in hand. And sometimes open source leads standards, and sometimes standards lead open source. I'm in active conversation, for example, with the COSI Foundation, who wants to collaborate with us. And we're working on different ways to think about how do we so COSI is based out of the OASIS Foundation, the OASIS Standards Group, for example. They're working on standards as well as open source. So I think we don't need to, I think we can be in lockstep or in parallel with standards groups. So people look to us, as you said, Jason, as a standards organization. And even though we are really a community, we're an open source community organization, as I said, those things kind of work hand in hand. So I don't think there's anything to keep us from helping to lead in areas that other standards groups may pick up in the future. And standards is a different kind of process. This is more of a community process, open source process. So I think it's okay.
And can I suggest, I hesitate to suggest, but one other thing is maybe not just the words, some standard architectures like deployment models specifically, open source, on-prem, cloud, US hosted, China hosted. These are pretty important concepts. In the last few days, I saw one VC talking on a national broadcast network talking about, oh, and that's interference when he meant inference, right? So, and talking about pre-training versus runtime training, what are these terms? You've got to sort of show where they are. And we've got some of our own architecture diagrams in there, but maybe something, where does this stuff happen? What does this word mean? And where is it in the overall cycle of Gen AI would be useful.
No, you're boiling that's an ocean boil.
Well, but Sandy, I think there's half a dozen key words that if people are going to talk about stealing the model versus logging
this is
in.
this is the what I would tell you is, if you have an idea, where you see a benefit on something like that, then bring it to the team. Do something similar to this, where you're saying, okay, this is what if you go back to the previous slide, this is just how I tried to do it, which is, kind of give the background why we were, why this was being proposed and the benefit across, to our OWASP users of and us as contributors. Like, why is this a good idea? Why is this where I'm proposing that cycles be spent and effort be done? So I would just, that's what I would encourage you to do is for me, and maybe this is just how I have to think, keep it simple. Which is, okay, this is a glossary. And so here's what we're going to do for a glossary.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it can always expand. I think keeping it simple and so that we get, and that's sort of been sort of the theme of the project is like, let's keep things simple, actionable, and then they can expand from there. They can iterate from there. So if we see needs to add new language, new definitions, those can be added. Since you're setting up a process to add them and validate them and review them.
But I know I don't disagree. I'm very, and this is a person who has spent the last, all of my, underestimating the effort that it takes to do anything with all of my great ideas. I'm really trying to keep my scope narrow so that I don't, that I can deliver on it in a timely manner and don't, end up trying to eat the whole elephant in one bite.
Understood.
All right, that's it for me. Open discussion, I think, is the next part.
Yeah. Any questions people have? Excuse me.
Quiet group.
Sandy, that's a great initiative because a lot of new concepts and terminologies and patterns will be originating from the Agentic Security Initiative. I think it's an awesome idea for us to have internally to have consensus on how we define those agentic patterns and agentic concepts, and then at the same time open it for feedback outside of our group, right? So we can achieve consensus on how we define those agentic patterns and concepts and terminologies. I think this is great.
And I
Thank
think it
you.
can also help us to, shorten, I think we talked about keep our documents concise, right? So if we have references for glossary, people can go back to
Absolutely.
terms. And so we don't have to, we do a lot, there are several documents we do a fair amount of definition repeat. And so if we can start to reference a glossary, that can help streamline things for folks, I think.
100%, absolutely.
Did you had some feedback? Did I get your name right? Arun.
Yes, thank you, Sandy. Again, like similar to Ron, I think like it's a good initiative, and maybe I might have another idea that we can actually think, and maybe Scott, we can actually run through this in the next outreach call.
Yep.
Maybe in addition to the glossary definition on the website, maybe we can have like a short videos which kind of like put it in a short video format that can be put on YouTube or other platform itself. So it's not like just one side, right? We talked about like creating like short videos out of the webinar. This could be another addition on that one. Like, why do we feel this particular definition is befitting itself? We can have like a bunch of folks can take turns and like record. Just
Yeah,
a thought.
that's it. So thanks. That's a great idea, Arnish. That's actually reminding me of something I forgot to add into I mentioned in today's conversation, which is, as you know, we're trying to put together these short videos for each of the initiatives so that we can have these these ways to kind of get people familiar with what we're doing. And so having them around some of these definitions, different terms a glossary would be great. And we can then
I think it ties in with Russell's comment too, don't you guys think? I mean, it kind of aligns
absolutely.
with the objective with what Russell was trying to accomplish, which is, you could have, whatever we want to say, reinforcement learning, and then you could have a animated video that shows people doing reinforcement learning or whatever. But that, I think, does that help with what you were trying to help people with, Russell?
Yeah, I think part of the thing is to divide the space up, right? We talked about this with target audience as well. Alignment and even with sponsors, maybe this is a relevant concept as well. There are some sponsors who are totally about training, some who are totally about guardrails, some who are totally about whatever else it is, right? So how does someone you go to a zoo, there's a map of the zoo. Hey, this is reptiles, this is mammals, this is whatever else it is. Just anything that helps to divide the space up to tell people ingest and process the information is helpful. And so whether it's the level of detail of a video, hey, let me show you how this works. Let me show you how a red teaming attack works. Let me show you standard architectures. I think to me, there's a huge difference between installing an open source model on my machine, on a Raspberry Pi even, versus I'm logging into something with 50,000 H100s, right? I think we need to help people understand what those differences are.
Yeah, and we have and as you mentioned, so on the outreach working group, we do have Hidden Layer had offered to bring together, Kristen there, a number of their videos that they're using, packaging and anonymizing them, particularly specifically for the foundation, for the project. And so that's one, like you said, one area where sponsors can help. We have the ability for anybody who's ready to record their video, I can send them a link today, and we can start to consolidate that input and start to capture those videos. So we have the capability to do it very quickly. You don't even need to have your own recording. We have oh, now I'm forgetting the name of the platform we're using, but we can have online recording. So if you don't want to use Zoom, or if you're comfortable using Zoom or whatever for your recording, feel free to do that. We also have StreamYard. Thank you. My brain just remembered what I was supposed to say. So we also have StreamYard as a platform for our webinars and our streaming and our other activities. So we can use that for any kind of recording that people want to do. I can simply send them a link and they can start recording their bit. So we're all set to do that. We just need to have people stand up and say, I want to do X. I want to do Y.
I think if I could make a proposal for a first definition video, I think a video that defines what an agent is would explode on the internet right now, because nobody has a consistent definition for that. And I don't know who's up to it, but I know Ali has been rocking videos related to the OWASP stuff that we're doing with the Agentic initiative.
Yep.
Yeah, Allie's been doing a great job. That's really cool that she's been getting those out there. So yeah. So if
Ken,
we want
you've been
to
really
sign
quiet.
Allie up for that, if we want to sign
Oh,
Allie
yeah,
up for
no,
that.
no signing
just
anyone
kidding.
up.
I'm kidding.
I bet if we
Right.
asked her, she'd be open to it.
Yeah, should be on it,
Yeah. So it would be great to, if we have some of those you want to come up with, we can put those in our queue of videos that we have coming up in the outreach working group. And let me know if you're not in the outreach working group and want to be added to it, or you can add yourself to it to be participating in that. So we want to crowdsource those videos.
Yeah, I'm being quiet listening. I think it's all good. Thank you, Sandy, for mentioning me. All this is a good initiative, so I I certainly will not disagree. That's why I'm quite listening. In terms of agentic AI, there's a lot of good initiatives. Jason, Long, John, right, contribute. In terms of agentic AI security landscape, it's going. We had the meeting yesterday, decided some of the topics that we need to talk. In the document, we will share within the agentic AI working group. It's a small group. Everyone welcome to join. Yeah, I think there is an opportunity between CSA and OWASP, some of joint effort. I'm still not really clear from the Cloud Security Alliance side. it's clear. The process is very clear. The co-chair can decide the topic and get the input from the members. From the OWASP side, I think the process is good. It's a little bit heavy and it's a little bit, for me, it's not clear how can I propose a new initiative. So that's
Okay.
maybe something I think, I don't know. I still don't know like how can, like if the Cloud Security Alliance want to kind of collaborate with OWASP, what is the process? It's a
So
yeah.
we can use the same process we're using with COSI and we're using with Linux Foundation, a couple other groups, which is to use the initiative governance structure to come up with what a joint initiative might look like, and then document that and get that through the approval process.
Right. Is this heavy process? Like if it's a time-consuming heavy process, then it's hard, right?
Yeah, it's
we need to make it lightweight if possible.
It's a process designed to make sure we have output, as opposed to many there are many goodwill kind of opportunities for projects to work together, but don't necessarily materialize in tangible outputs. So we're minimizing the amount of overhead necessary to ensure that there's an output that is jointly beneficial. So it is as lightweight as it can to make sure that there's enough energy behind it to have a success. That's what's been the success of the initiatives we've had so far, is to make sure it wasn't sort of an exercise in trying to. We knew we had a core team and enough energy ahead of time and a very clear goal in terms of what the first deliverables are. And that's helped us be more efficient and actually generate more content more quickly. That is of value.
So Scott, maybe one thing I want to really emphasize, we should not keep like one person as a gatekeeper. It has to be decentralized. Like I don't want like Scott, like you as a centralized the gatekeeper. Then it's really hard because you are busy. I try to reach out to you many times. It's hard to get to you, right? So I have to say that to be open, to be transparent. I understand that you are busy, so I even don't get the link. Like, how can I actually propose a initiative? So that's maybe
I can point you back to that link. It's actually in the core team. It's in the core team channel, so we can make sure you got access to that. So there's a proposal, there's a governance document, and a proposal document that are linked in the core team channel. But I'm happy to resend those to you if you're unable to locate those.
Right. Okay. Yeah. If it's a decentralized, I think it's good. Like the co-member, at least a co-member can propose some of. I think it's a grassroots. Like some of the idea we have, it's has a lot of support from grassroots, from LinkedIn, and some of the top companies like Scale AI, Intuit, and also NIST, even NIST reach out to me. They're interested and may contribute as well. But then I don't know like where actually I propose to OWASP, right? So that's maybe, yeah, one thing, Anush is raising the hand. One thing as I talk maybe Anush, maybe we can propose with OWASP AI exchange. Maybe it has a list process. This may be a one way, but Anush, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my question was likely completely, if Ken, if you're done with that particular thing, I want to bring the conversation back to what Sandy had proposed. I was thinking something that we are doing in AI Exchange is like a core definitions, and those are like kind of hyperlinks to actual documentation. So it's like a lot of cross-referencing back from an image to the definition back to the image itself. If you can think about, okay, so this is all the different layers for like AI, right? Like I'll in parlance for like AI exchange, we talk about development risk, in production risk, all those things, right? And it kind of ties back to the definition. If you can think of making the glossary itself more hyperlinked, I think it'll go like it'll make the consumption of this one far more than
Again, this
ours.
ended up being way bigger than, I mean, I ended up manually doing searches and going through, and I mean, it took me way longer than I thought it would be. It would take what I would say. Here's the balance. And again, this, you know, Jason's talked about this, Ken has talked about it. You know, this, you know, the key here is consensus. This is group. I mean, this is, nobody should be the dictator for how a project evolves. I mean, that this is a group deal. One thing that I struggle with is too much complexity. Like, I just want a simple answer. Just give me, I'm trying to read through a document and they just reference something, and what is back propagation? What does that mean? You know, give me a simple. So, you know, I would just, just think about, finding that balance between forcing people, overwhelming people with too much, and the benefits of just, keeping it simple and letting people kind of consume it. I think all of these are great ideas. For me, what I'm committed to is just refining these definitions, organizing them, and doing them. If everyone else wants to do videos and architecture and all of that, I would say, let's coordinate. Let's, stand up a different channel or make it a sub channel in the channel that we have.
Well, we can just simply, if we want to do video, we can, one thing we could do just to make it easy, if we want to do videos, just join the outreach channel, add it to the tracker where we're building content, list it there as something we want to create, and someone take ownership and help make that happen.
Yeah.
So
And I think
so that we
that's
don't
the
end
key.
up creating new process. I'm trying to see if we can kind of keep it lightweight and make it easy for people to find things.
One suggestion though, and I think it's valid, because I struggle too. Like, I'm always doing podcasts and stuff, and I know I'm supposed to tell people that that I'm doing a podcast, but I don't remember where I stuck the link, and I know that, so it might be, it might be time to go through and just, list out, how do you get involved? Where should you step in? What are our channels? What is the process to do this? What is our agreed, how do we come up with, our guardrails when we create a project, in things like that, Scott. I think that, again, because we've grown so much, and because it's, there's so many people doing amazing things, it might be time to start help mapping some of that out. That's kind of what you were saying, right, Ken?
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. Certainly.
Yeah, so we are in the process, as I shared on the last call, of consolidating all of our governance. So what I found when I looked at it to address the onboarding issue, because we have lots of people who want to participate, is to make sure we have everything consolidated in one place. So I have pulled all of that content together, and we will have a single document that has all of that in one place to make it easier. So that way we can address onboarding initiatives. How do I start an initiative? All that stuff is being consolidated into one governance doc. Because right now, as you said, we have those in several different places. And so that's the ongoing project. And I have a draft of that, and I'll have one complete of that at the end of next week.
Yeah, well, one approach I would also recommend is gauge the interest from the wider community, right? Maybe post your idea in LinkedIn just initially for certain of the glossary terms, right? This may be approach, so everyone can kind of. I'm heavily on LinkedIn. I think there's a lot of professional content there. If they can give their own idea, and then you can leverage that as well. So.
Okay. So, let me play that back to you. So I was talking about basically just posting in our OWASP channel to get approval, but you're saying, when I go out and request people's feedback for proposed definitions, go broader than just our community, go out to LinkedIn and a Discord channel here or there or something.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, Ken?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's a caveat. It's not final, right? So, but eventually, like it's it like the initial input is gauged by the wider community, right? So it has the better chance to get approval for final, right?
Yeah, and I think one thing to think about there too is also making sure that it's a manageable process for you.
Right.
Just to be aware, because it can get because consolidating input, however you're going to take input, even if we do, and we do this for other outreach too. We'll send something out to their LinkedIn, and then we'll ask them to consolidate their feedback into a doc or through a form or through another mechanism. We did this with the top 10, right? So same kind of idea, just making sure that we're not, my suggestion is that we make sure that we do not just, we have some structure around how we're taking input. That way we can make sure it's actionable. Otherwise you may find yourself chasing a lot of message channels that, may be too much work, right?
It can be
just try
very
to-
divisive. I mean, everyone's been in a project where you try to come, you can spend a lot of time trying to, Cloud Security Alliance is the worst. That's a bunch of PhD super brains in there, and you start talking about words in the Cloud Security Alliance and you've lost the whole meeting. So yeah, great feedback. I've posted the channel. Please, any additional comments, I open to anything, any great ideas. So
Awesome. So any other comments or last questions before we close? Because I think we're at the top of the hour, so I want to make sure we respect people's time.
Yeah, I have to go another meeting also. Oh, thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.
Thanks for checking out our bi-weekly meeting podcast. If you'd like to stay up to date on all of the latest news for the OWASP Top 10 for large language model applications, please click subscribe. And of course, we'd appreciate it if you'd share with a friend to grow our community. We'll see you in 2 weeks.